I want to preface this video with the fact that I don't condone murder, unless it's funny. Remember, I am incapable of telling the truth. This is a lie. I am Alfarius, and I wish for the genuine love of Almighty God that I could kill the Dark Brotherhood in a more interesting fashion. But I am the Hearth guy, and I'm getting ahead of myself. Perhaps the most troublesome faction in Skyrim, both from a story and gameplay perspective, is the murder hobo fan club that is the Dark Brotherhood, a pseudo-religious cult dedicated to the worship of an elder god through the practice of ritualized murder for hire. So yeah, you can join that. And by some metrics, they're considered the best faction in the game, at least when it comes to their questline. People enjoy the harrowing and outright evil way you can approach the whole questline and how it makes Skyrim genuinely feel like you can play however you want. However, I fear that this is a fact counterbalanced by the barrenness of what this questline and faction actually is and the actions or lack thereof of certain characters in said questline. But to get to point B, we have to start at point A, so let's talk some lore. In the shadows of Tamriel, the Brotherhood has been an organization older than the Empire, and by some estimates, older than the previous Empire too. Although that's hard to verify and there's some evidence to suggest otherwise. They were said to have branched off from the Morag Tong of Morrowind. The Morag Tong has an equally dark history, but for this it's only important to know that they're an assassination syndicate founded on the worship of Mephala, Daedric Prince of Lies and Treachery. Eventually, the Morag Tong was explicitly outlawed and hunted by the Empire of the era, and a schism formed when the Morag Tong sought amnesty from the Tribunal of Morrowind, and abandoned Mephala to worship Vivec. Around this time, it's said that the people who'd become the first members of the Dark Brotherhood felt the call of a much older god than Mephala, Sithis, the Dread Father, also called Padme, the primordial entity of chaos and change, and Lord over the Void, the outer darkness between all other planes of existence, and in which there is no warmth or pain, simply numbing nothingness. Sithis himself is a lot more complex than I just laid him out to be, and has a much deeper role to play in the cosmology of Nirn and the creation of the multiverse, but for the purposes of this video, all we need to know is that he represents the end of all things, as is his nature as a being of change outside of order and stasis. Because of this, organizations like the Dark Brotherhood and Morag Tong revered him, usually with some intermediary being like Mephala in the case of the Tong, though it seems the Morag Tong began to revere Mephala over Sithis at a point where the Brotherhood ultimately split from them. That said, there is another account that suggests they originated within the Thieves Guild, and that their foray into murder was a practical practice for aiding in their thefts, which led to, again, a schism from that guild. The veracity of this claim is also hard to determine, though I'm unsure whether to believe it since it's less clear how Sithis would have gotten involved in the group and why they so drastically swung away from their original practice of thievery. It would also raise eyebrows as to why the two groups can work in parallel so often whenever they have such a messy history. Due to the Morag Tong and Brotherhood's continued feuding even in the modern day of Elder Scrolls, I'm more inclined to believe that version of events. But regardless of which story is the truth, both require the intercession of another figure, a woman and immortal spirit that commands the Dark Brotherhood across the eons. Her origins are also highly up to debate, which is kind of expected with a figure that's lasted this long. In one version, she was a member of the Thieves Guild, as stated before, but the Brotherhood itself agrees on this story, that she was once a woman living in the village that would become Bravil in Cyrodiil, and was a member of the Morag Tong. While the Morag Tong struggled during the Second Era and was eradicated outside of Morrowind, Sithis confided in this woman that he was angry with the Tong for the lack of blood and soul sent his way. So he gave her a plan, and had 5 children with her. Then, she would murder her own children as a sacrifice to Sithis. The people of the village, in retaliation for this cruel act, burnt her home to the ground with her in it. But the voice of Sithis would now be heard, as the very first listener began to hear the whispers of the woman now called the Night Mother. The Dark Brotherhood began to form there in Bravil and go beyond. The hierarchy of the Brotherhood is fairly simple. The Night Mother hears the prayers of those who wish for someone dead, and who pray using a ritual called the Black Sacrament. The Night Mother then relays that information to her listener, who tells a speaker who establishes contact with the client and sends a lower-ranked initiate out to perform the killing. There are a few unique positions and exceptions as well, such as the role of the Shadow Scale, which are Argonians born under the Shadow Star sign, that become offered to the Dark Brotherhood in service of the Kingdom of Argonia in Blackmarsh. They have a special kind of training and relationship with the Order, but as time goes on, they've died out and only one remains in the modern day. There is also the Keeper, a role specifically for a member that maintains the corpse of the Night Mother, ensuring her body can act as a vessel to retain her spirit, allowing for communication between listener and Night Mother. However, again, this role went unused for centuries until the modern day. Another sort of role is the spiritual one, where the long-dead souls of servants to the Dread Father can still interact and appear in the mortal plane by his will and power. Look at the spirit of Lucien Lachance, once a speaker and mentor to the hero of Kvatch during the Brotherhood storyline in Oblivion, now reborn as a spectral assassin that can be called by the Brotherhood members to help kill for them. All the while, they obey the 5 tenets, which are fairly straightforward. Don't disrespect the Night Mother, don't betray the Brotherhood, don't refuse or disobey orders, and don't steal from or kill your fellow members. If you don't keep to that, well, Sithis has ways of dealing with you. That or the Black Hand, that being the speakers and the listener, can just order an entire sanctuary annihilated if there's even a whiff of betrayal. Through the history of the Brotherhood, they've neared extinction many times, whether from outright assault from the powers that be, betrayal from within, or, as has happened now, abandonment of the original tenets. The numbers of the Brotherhood only continued to dwindle as the Shadowscale tradition became abandoned as well, leaving less recruits for the organization as a whole. Over the last 20 years or so, the Dark Brotherhood has crumbled from numerous internal and external dangers. Internal power struggles colliding with the encroaching authority of the Aldmeri Dominion and the political turmoil of the Empire, making the land just that more chaotic. While there was plenty of murder to be had, they also became targets for all major factions as their sanctuaries became rooted out and destroyed, leaving only 4 remaining by the time the Great War ends. One in Falkreath Skyrim, one in Wayrest High Rock, one in Cheydinhal Cyrodiil, and another in Corinth elsewhere. But, due to the efforts of Imperial forces headed by the living dragon break that is the forgotten hero of Elder Scrolls Legends and a man named Uther Nair, this sanctuary of Wayrest was destroyed and Corinth was shut down to consolidate power in Cyrodiil. This proved to be fruitless in the end, as the sanctuary of the Night Mother in Bravil was attacked under the guise of gang warfare by the Forgotten Hero and his forces. Though there is some possibility for the Forgotten Hero to side with the Brotherhood, the end result is the same. The crypt is destroyed, the listener, Alessane Dupré, was killed, and the Night Mother was only saved by a single assassin that was able to spirit her corpse away under the cover of night. While the Falkreath Sanctuary grew more and more isolated, the Order in Cheydinhal grew more and more desperate, bringing back the old Keeper position to maintain the Night Mother's body while she was away from her ancient crypt. This role was given to a member named Cicero. Despite this, a new listener was not made clear. Perhaps, for whatever reason, Sithis grew upset with the Order, or perhaps a more powerful force of fate was working against them. Or maybe listeners are on a cooldown timer and the Night Mother can't make a new one yet. No matter the reason, the silence from the Night Mother hindered the Brotherhood's ability to work further, and infighting began as a false listener was killed and members either died or deserted, leaving only Cicero in Cheydinhal Sanctuary for years. With no word from anyone else, the Falkreath Sanctuary developed on its own and turned away from the old ways, at the insistence of its leader, Astrid, a woman whose arrogance is outmatched only by Cicero's madness. Astrid foolishly believed she could run the organization built around the words of Sithis by abandoning the rules of Sithis, including respect for the Night Mother and the old structures like the Listener. But as the only Brotherhood left, her word was law, and it seems that the Dreadfather grew unhappy with this arrangement. Even so, work continued for the Skyrim group as they used word of mouth to hear of people performing the Black Sacrament and acting on those jobs. And the Brotherhood, rather than looking like a professional organization, began to look more akin to a family. Astrid's family. With her husband, the near-feral werewolf and former companion Arnbjorn, the final Shadowscale Vizara, the eternal child vampire Babette, ex-college teacher and master of destruction magic Festus, deathly beauty Gabriella, and a Redguard with a totally obscured past but who seems to function as Astrid's right hand, Nazir. And to finalize the Dark Brotherhood having connections with every single faction, Astrid herself was romantically linked with Delvin Mallory, who hid with them after he committed a murder, before Delvin left due to some unnamed betrayal. Unsurprising when Astrid runs the Brotherhood as the authoritative mother figure she thinks she can replace the Night Mother as. It'd be no great shock to me if Astrid had something to do with that, but even so, the two hold each other in decent regard even now. Regardless, they've got those ties and more grudges wrapped up in every major power player in Skyrim, and during the events of their questline, they're looking to stack on a few more, because that quest and the additional side quests involve killing business owners, local nobles, a pirate captain, and ultimately, the Emperor of Tamriel. He's actually just the Emperor of Cyrodiil High Rock and half of Skyrim, but don't tell him that. Spurred on by someone clearly from the Elder Council that works under and beside the Emperor, the Dark Brotherhood becomes mere pawns in a much larger game that we, the player, don't really get a good image of. There is something unique in the intrigue that plays out behind the scenes, of this political warfare that we're just a speck of, but it's intercut with Cicero bringing the Night Mother to the Sanctuary, Astrid's growing resentment towards any threats to her power, and the player being revealed as the new listener. You work your way towards the Emperor's assassination, killing his cousin at her own wedding to draw his attention, killing the son of the Emperor's Secret Service commander and framing him as a would-be assassin to lower his guard, and killing a famous chef to steal their identity. But through this whole experience, I came to a startling conclusion. Astrid is really bad at her job. Because if the Dark Brotherhood could be utilized like this, to arrange the death of one of the most important people in the world, but they've been stuck as rats in the dark for 20 years or so, what has Astrid been doing? It's revealed by miscellaneous information that there are cases of Brotherhood contracts simply not going through, such as with Maven Blackbriar. But Astrid appears to insist her way as the real matron of the group is best, even disrespecting the Night Mother, an act that directly breaks the 5 tenets she's abandoned and throws Cicero into a rage, leading to her, Arnbjorn, and Vizara's near deaths. And yet even then, she can't seem to correlate her own actions, actively disrespecting an ancient demon woman whose influence has outlasted almost every other organization on the continent, to the misfortune that has befallen the group she's leading that was founded in accordance with that same demon woman's will and the will of the Elder God behind her. The other members just nod their heads to whatever Astrid says, too. Though some older members at first wanted to obey the old ways, their loyalty to Astrid overruled their common sense in obeying the Dreadfather that holds sway over them all. Even Lucien Lachance, whose spirit is bound to you as a spectral assassin, openly tells you that Sithis doesn't want Cicero dead, and for you to question allegiance to Astrid. And Lucien is currently a spirit in the void who has stood before Sithis, meaning that he would know almost as well as the Night Mother would. But you can only ever go along with it. A rare point of dissension being your ability to spare Cicero against Astrid's orders, although that only becomes relevant after the questline's conclusion. Dead or alive, Cicero's fate doesn't change how the final attempt on the Emperor goes, where you're supposed to poison his food while he's visiting Skyrim. A kill that goes off without a hitch. Except that was a fake Emperor that just died of cringe. That's because even now, Astrid's short-sighted need to control everything leads to her own downfall, as she rats you out to Commander Morrow, head of the Penitus Oculatus, the secret service of the Emperor whose son you killed and shamed. She does this out of fear for the old ways and fear that you'll usurp her own authority. But this action just ends it all anyway, as Morrow triple-crosses Astrid and sends the Oculatus after the Sanctuary, killing everyone inside and setting it ablaze. The player only has time to get back and save Nazir before taking shelter in the sarcophagus of the Night Mother as the whole Sanctuary explodes around them. Only Nazir and Babette survive because they have the all-important titles of Skill Trainers, Quest Giver, and Merchant to sustain them. Astrid's treachery is revealed and the player continues to the final act, reaching and killing the real Emperor, who is extremely chill about the whole thing, and was either very aware that the Brotherhood wasn't dead, or he was planning on it. I'm very much in the camp that thinks that the Emperor had some kind of part in this plan, and that his final request, that you kill Amon Motier, the man who hired you in the first place, was him tying up the last loose end. If not, perhaps he just knew of the plan and simply wanted you to give him a last bit of revenge for his final wish. Either way, the deed is done and the Dark Brotherhood survives another day. Or does it? The Brotherhood, despite having the Night Mother, the fear and respect of killing the Emperor, and a new sanctuary, is weaker than it's ever been. Nazir and Babette are the only members of any experience unless you spared Cicero, but even he isn't supposed to take jobs as his role is that of the Keeper. You get 2 nameless initiates as members shortly after the main quest ends, but your reward for killing the Emperor is almost entirely used up, just refurbishing the Sanctuary, putting you right back where you left off. And frankly, after the last 200 years of repeated organizational collapse, I really doubt there's anything you can do to stop the inevitable. Which is probably what they should have expected, serving the embodiment of chaos and change. That there could never have been any form of stasis or status quo forever. Plus, they have put an even bigger target on their back if ever the chances arise for the Imperials. Now, from one perspective, they have set up shop in a Stormcloak city, meaning less worry about the Penitus Oculatus investigating unless the Imperials take the Pale back. Even then, they'd have to find a way into that sanctuary as well. Meanwhile, the Stormcloaks are a bit too busy to be worrying about what the Brotherhood are doing, and honestly, them killing the Emperor would probably be a bigger benefit to the rebels than not. With the Emperor dead, a power struggle back in Cyrodiil is sure to follow, along with forces being stretched thin by an expected search for the Dark Brotherhood that'll likely fail. And that's all on top of the usual atrophy that the Empire is experiencing every waking second. However, Ulfric is a Talos-loving Nord all about the classic ways of glory and honor, so the Brotherhood no doubt would never sit right to him. It's definitely more of a happy accident for both groups than any kind of mutual friendship. No matter how you slice it, the Brotherhood is still on a collision course with the Void, and the Dragonborn has only managed to delay the end. Which really isn't the Dragonborn's fault at all, because the Brotherhood absolutely set itself up for failure in making unbeatable enemies over and over again, especially under Astrid's rule. Not only do they, somehow, kidnap the Dragonborn, savior of Skyrim, who can rewrite the world around them by yelling loudly like all Karens wish they could do, but that same Dragonborn could be anything from the Archmage of the College, the Nightingale and Guildmaster to the Thieves Guild, or Harbinger of the Companions. And graduate of the Bard's College, I guess, but no one cares about them. Realistically, there should be no way that Astrid doesn't get turned into sludge at the first possible instance, and for once, you can do that. No essential marker keeping you from killing her. No, you can maintain your moral nature and kill her then and there. But why would you? A great flaw of how the Dark Brotherhood is set up in Skyrim as a playable faction is the utter lack of fleshed out choices. I made a video essay quite a while back about the art of choice in video games. In it, I make mention to how certain games incentivize and disincentivize certain actions in gameplay and story, inherently delegitimizing the proposed free will of the player by making certain options very clear as the quote, right choice. And in this case, that's what happens. Because if you kill Astrid, you begin the Destroy the Brotherhood quest, which is barely even a quest at all. You just head to Dragon's Bridge, tell Morrow what happened, and he sends you to kill the other members, except Babette, because you can't kill children in Skyrim. Then you get rewarded with a measly sum of gold by comparison to all you can get from the actual faction questline. You don't even get the Oculatus armor. You'd still have to kill one of them to get that drip. This is what I mean when I say you're disincentivized to a certain option, and it makes it not feel like a real choice. Sure, you can choose it, but when stacked up against the greater degree of content in the alternative, is it really a fair choice? So you know what? Screw it. Here's a quick what-if scenario for how to make the Destroy the Brotherhood questline, prefacing with that I have never seen any mods that have this idea. I know they exist, I just have never looked into them. So this is all coming right off the rip. First, yeah, you kill Astrid and report to Morrow, and he decides to recruit you to his personal task force hunting the Brotherhood, including himself and his son Gaius. He even agrees to arrange for a pardon for your part in killing Grelod the Kind if you bring that up. Your primary task in this questline would be thwarting the plans of the Dark Brotherhood repeatedly, and that can start with tracking and capturing one of their members. You get assaulted by random Brotherhood assassins all the time before you join if you got a hit out on you. So the implication is that they have or have had at least a few extra hands. So you pick one of the hits you get from Nazir, or even the one you get from Muri, and have it be that Morrow intercepted word of the Black Sacrament being performed, the same way the Brotherhood does it without a listener. Then you head wherever the job is being done, save the target, and subdue the assassin. And Morrow and you can interrogate and even torture the initiate for information. However, the assassin tries to escape, forcing you to kill them, and so you loot a letter from their body. A letter that reveals the assassin and the Brotherhood's intentions, killing the Emperor. You might say there's no reason they'd have that plan since it takes the listener being present for them to learn about it, but one, the Night Mother can choose whoever she wants to be listener. It doesn't have to be you. And two, Amand could very easily just establish direct communication if he got desperate enough. So it's far from a real plot issue. And from here you begin tracking the Brotherhood's movements and intercepting their attacks, with all the missions combining to be a kind of boss rush of you encountering and killing each of the members with their own special skills. Vizara is at the wedding, Gabriella is after Morrow's son, and Festus is after the gourmet. Each mission also rewards you something different with certain stipulations. And it can still feel like a challenge as you and Morrow are constantly being forced to guess and respond to whatever you assume the Brotherhood is up to. Maybe you're even allowed to fail to a degree, if you still kill the assassins. Your goal is to save the Emperor and destroy the Brotherhood, not necessarily stop the deaths of everyone else. But saving more lives gets you more rewards, like unique armor and weapons, and you, of course, can loot unique items from the dead assassins. The special bow Gabriella leaves for you at the wedding? Now you can loot that offer if you kill her. The same for the ring Festus gives you during the gourmet quest. Although, in this case, Morrow decides to use the gourmet's anonymity to spread the word that he did die, allowing for Morrow to make a plan that this time the Brotherhood has to adapt to. With the Brotherhood's plans theoretically in disarray, Morrow explains his final trick: to lure in an assassin from the Brotherhood with a fake emperor so you can take them prisoner, find their real hideout, and end them once and for all. You then take the role of the assistant chef and encounter Babette, pretending to be the gourmet, since you can't kill her anyway, and use this instance to take her in. Morrow extracts information from her by starving her from blood, giving a glimpse that even though he's the good guy, he's still capable of ruthlessness. And he forces Babette to reveal the Dark Brotherhood's location and passphrase. With that plan, you, Morrow, and maybe Morrow's son if you saved him, go to destroy the sanctuary with Arnbjorn waiting for you. Especially you, since you killed Astrid. Maybe add a few extra Brotherhood assassins as cannon fodder and maybe some Penitus Oculatus agents and just go to town. When it's over, Morrow has you look around for any signs of any other assassins, leading you to discover Cicero's journals and the location of the Dawnstar Sanctuary, as well as its secret phrase. Morrow and you then go alone to the sanctuary to investigate while the rest of the Oculatus clean up in Falkreath. The Dawnstar Sanctuary would pretty much be the same, except with Cicero's words being especially venomous and pointing out each member you killed to get this far until you face him in the final chamber in front of the Night Mother's sealed sarcophagus. Here, as Cicero is about to die, he reveals the Brotherhood and the Night Mother's final trick: that Cicero, Nazir, and Arnbjorn knew of Babette's capture and planned for this, using the Falkreath Sanctuary as a sacrificial pawn while Cicero hid away the Night Mother and Nazir went to finish the real task of killing the Emperor. With little time to waste, Morrow and you race to protect the Emperor on the Catarrhia, where Nazir, equipped with plenty of poisons and even the spectral assassin of Lucien Lachance, serves as the final boss of the Dark Brotherhood. If you want to make it really neat, you could have Nazir appearing at different points in disguise, since his role in the Brotherhood quests is that of the eyes and ears who gives you side jobs. In this case, he could be running into you as he performs these tasks as the new leader since Astrid's death. Slowly but surely, you both begin to suspect who the other is, but never say it aloud until this moment, where you and Nazir fight one-on-one. Nazir being equipped with the unique scimitar Windshear, while the spectral assassin keeps Morrow busy. With Nazir dead, Morrow and you officially meet the Emperor, who up to this point you'd not been able to meet for security reasons. You two have a short chat while the Emperor appears to be somewhat amused and doubtful that this is really over, hinting that you should make sure all of the members of the Brotherhood are dead, which reminds Morrow that Babette is still alive. You two head to her cell only to find her gone with a letter, where she says she's planning on disappearing for a few centuries with the Night Mother, mocking their temporary win and that the Dark Brotherhood will rise again. But even so, for now, you'll have won, and Morrow rewards you with a proper exorbitant fund for saving the Emperor, and the questline will end with Morrow, having some free time, now able to be a follower. Or his son can be if he survived, kinda like Cicero. And that is my pitch for a better Destroy the Dark Brotherhood questline. Tell me what you think. Personally, I'd also like to have it where you could interact occasionally with each assassin during the quest, particularly if they're trying to hide who they are, but I wasn't 100% sure how to frame that in this case. Either way, that'll be all from me. Thank you, as always, for watching. It's been a fun breakdown of the major quest factions, the things I liked or disliked, their lore and various aspects that I'd change, or just interesting ideas I wanted to talk about. If you liked the video, make sure to subscribe, comment, like, or share, and if you really want to support my work, consider becoming a patron like all these lovely folks. You all are like my Night Mother, whispering words into my ears, never allowing me a moment to rest, and still getting me paid regardless. As a patron or channel member, you get access to a private Discord server to directly interact with me, videos, hours, or even days earlier, and you'd just be helping me out a ton on a personal level. However, it's all optional and I won't make any demands of you. With all that done, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for sitting through these 4 videos and the ones before. I'm currently debating what to cover for Skyrim next, but for now, I'm going to say goodbye to the Snowy Province. Like all my tour guide series, I come and go from them, wandering to and fro into stories and worlds that I like. I'll return to Skyrim one day, but for now, let's all bid adieu. Remember, I am the Hearth Guy, and say it with me now, I will see you all next time, around the hearth. Ah, look at it all. People walking around, living their lives, all under the watchful eye of a bunch of murder hobos that kill each other for sport. throwing themselves to their deaths because it's funny, and turning extra-dimensional gods into weapons for the simple meme. If there is a peak human form, you're looking at it.